super excited to talk to Fernando today about how he's been creating systems all over the world. So Fernando, tell us a little bit about how you've got into tennis player development and the systems that you created.
Thank you, Andrew, and congratulations for your work trying to help people to be fit in terms to not only in tennis, to do in different sports related with rackets and paddle, which is very good. I'm focused all my life in tennis development. I created a system in different countries and also in different programs. The main focus was how to create effective and reliable system to develop systematic approach to help players. And that's why one key aspect that you have to develop is also to develop coaches.
Yeah.
And that's why we are working with the GPTCA. By the way, in May, we're gonna do a high performance course in Laguna Beach. We're gonna certify coaches about high performance with the ATP certification provided by GPTCA. You're gonna be there, it's your place. Yeah. But also it's an invitation to all coaches who wants to have international knowledge that we can have better resources to develop that players. One thing which is very important to produce players is to create a scientific approach which is combining your expertise, your knowledge in tennis, and bringing sports science, which is very important for the player of today. Because the player of today, which is going to be the player of the future, you are working now. You know, to develop a tennis player, you need around 15 years of continuous work. Tomorrow I'm going to explain in my panel about the future of coaching, which are the key factors that we're going to do for the future to have better coaches. Because if you have better coaches, you're going to have better players. You know, the coach always be a physical coach, be a mental coach, be a technical coach, is always the person in the middle.
Yeah.
If you have a good coach, you are bringing more people to the sport. There is a very common concept in terms of development, which means in every coach represents between 200 and 300 people. You know, around that guy, that person, you have 200, 300 people around. That's why better is the coach, better is the level of the environment. And they say happen because one of the key aspects, Andrew, and you know that worldwide basis, is talent is everywhere.
Yeah.
You never know where is the future player.
Yeah.
That's why if you increase the standard of one country, for sure the talent is coming. Because if you reach a new level in terms of how you develop the pathway in terms of the overall country, you rise a new level in the standard, and then the talent is using that standard to jump to the next level. What happened in many countries? If the level of the coaching or the competition is here, if you have a talent, it's jumping a very poor level. But if you rise a new standard in terms of general population, all the people playing tennis, all the people coaching, you know, in this level, the talent, the champion, will use that platform to jump to the next level. That's why countries like Spain, like Germany, like France, like Argentina, also like United States, you know, are always producing players. Why? Because you have a new standard. Of course, one of the key aspects, which is very important what you are doing, which is education, every 5 years, everything is changing.
Yeah.
That's why if you have a formula 20, 30, 40 years ago, you are doing the same, you miss the trend. Why? Because every 5 years, you need to update your system, even in your academy, to jump to the next level. Because sports science, no, in terms of also in sports science, in terms of business, in terms of the development ways, generations are changing the motivation and the stimulus that they are receiving to participate in tennis. That's why we need to change.
Yeah. Super well said. What do you think about tennis coaches these days versus 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Do you think tennis coaches are evolving, or do you think we're at a sort of a static standpoint to where coaches are kind of still doing the same things over and over again, and the game has evolved since then. What do you think of the overall sport in terms of that regard?
Well, very good question and very important question, Andrew. Thank you for that. I think always tennis is an evolution, like anything. We are evolving all the time. We are evolving in two different ways. We can have awareness how we are evolving, or we can have not. It means you are not taking responsibility what happened. You are walking in the life like a free spirit, receiving inspiration. Rather, the opposite is you make a plan, you study your research, you put goal setting, you develop yourself to be a best person first, then a best coach possible. You develop yourself. Okay. If you say to me, it's happened as two things. There are some coaches staying in the same position in the last 40, 30, 20 years because the standard sometimes is very low, Secondly, of course, the coaches who are working in high performance or working in the international field, they are evolving all the time. Why? Because it's a requirement of the players.
Yeah.
Players are evolving. Let's see Alcaraz. If you see Alcaraz playing, or like a Sinner, they have a combination of some things of Nadal, some things of Federer, or some things of Djokovic. It means it's a combination, which means players are learning from other players, which means that's the evolution. New players are watching on TV, watching in tournaments, charging the mind with ideas, and then when they have the spot, when they have the opportunity, and bringing their tennis alive, in competition, they are combining what they learn. That's why the principle of the evolution. Every generation is better than the generation past.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's the same for us, like the coaches.
Yeah.
I think most of the coaches who are working in tennis, they have the passion, they have the commitment, and they have the responsibility, because through tennis, which is very important, Andrew, as you are doing in your academy and your project and Fee for Tennis, which is a very good app, to everyone who wants to develop themselves to be in shape, but more than to be in shape is to be continuously improving in your body and how you are in the physical point of view. But my point is, it's very important to understand that tennis is a sport that helps you to transform lives. Through tennis, you are helping people to be better person.
Yeah.
Why? Because when you are on the court and you have doubts, or you have fear, or you have taken wrong decisions, or sometimes you are having some trouble to read the situation of the opponent, the main thing to watch is to watch yourself, which is the mirror law. You are watching yourself in the mirror, and tennis is showing how you are. Big players are facing how they are and start to work in the human being side.
Yeah.
They are not putting,
things under the rug.
Exactly. And this is a very important aspect because you help me through the sport to watch myself, to face myself, and to start to work. And the kind of thing that we need to be more aware, secondly, to gain more security in myself, to have more self-esteem, and to keep developing to be a better person first, and then a better tennis player. Always remember, we are human beings who play tennis. That's why, if you want better tennis player, you have to develop the human being side.
Yeah, for sure. That's very well said again. We had an interesting and fun conversation the other day in Laguna, and you mentioned something about approximately how many coaches did you say there were in the world, and how many actually are presenting themselves online and have a LinkedIn and actually getting out there? Can you kind of go into a little bit of detail about that and sort of how coaches should be evolving in terms of staying up to date with their profiles and making sure that people can access them regularly and showing their skills in terms of, what's up to date in 2024?
It's a very
2025, I'm sorry.
It's a very interesting question, because in some way tennis coaches sometimes are complaining about that we don't have recognition, we don't have the right spots. For many people used to watch, to the perception of to be a tennis coach, that for people, common people, let's say general audience, it's like a sub-profession. It's not like a really profession. It's like a weekend profession. You are a tennis coach. You have, something, having fun. No? From my point of view, to bring recognition like professional, we have to behave like a professional. We have 500,000 people working like a tennis coach in the world, but only around 25% of the people, they have a profile, a professional profile. How people will recognize you if you don't have let's say, a profile on a social network, anyone, where you are putting your degree, your certification, your resources, your abilities, what you are providing like a professional, your services. If you are not showing to others like a professional, how will receive respect and recognition like a professional? Because we are not doing nothing. It's not only to have like a basketball in the middle of the court, to have a tennis racket and throw out some balls. It's not like that. Yeah. We need to behave like a professional. In the United States, only 23% of the coaches who has a credential, they have a LinkedIn profile. It means 77% of the guys, they are not introducing themselves on a social network which is recognizing not our profession only, every profession.
Yeah.
It means, firstly, we need to take responsibility, Andrew, and like a coaches, start to be better in terms of how we behave like a professionals, be certified first, be always updating what we are doing, research, study, be able to share with others, not complaining, more creating a positive environment to create growth, and also be, as you perfectly say, more professional.
More professional, yeah. No, I agree there. You've been able to create some tremendous partnerships. I truly admire how you've been able to connect the world of tennis globally through your systems and partnerships. You're one of the, I think, the only ones offering an ATP certification out there. How does one go about that, and how much work and dedication were you able to kind of get into those fields and actually provide that to other tennis coaches to aspire to be an ATP certified coach one day?
I think it's very important because at the beginning in 2010, GPTCA, a lot of coaches, they created GPTCA, which is an organization which is trying to certify coaches and also bring the knowledge of the high performance coaches, to everyone. This is very important because in the past, we are so far from here to the coaches who are traveling with players.
Yeah.
And when you're traveling with the top players, you are exposed to the high level of information and also not only different cases, different situations, different environment, adjustment, different research, sports science coming, a lot of things are together. And I think this is the opportunity that we can have through GPTCA and in our case through Segal Institute, a course where you can be ATP certified to understand the high performance profile that you need to develop in terms if you want to have a high performance platform, in terms to develop players. But more important, it's funny to talk a little bit about one detail. Many times us, like coaches, we are saying, tennis is a mental game, okay? How many times you are working in a day-by-day process in a mental and emotional part? Almost nothing. Most of the coaches are working on the forehand, on the backhand. Sometimes in the footwork. This is a skill and a concept that you dominate so well, and then you put it in your platform, different coaches with you working on the meanings of the footwork.
Thank you. Yeah.
But this is very important because you can have the best forehand in the United States, but if you don't are able to move and to reach the ball, I don't care. Even if you have the best forehand or backhand or whatever, you need to learn how to move first, and then you can hit like that. It doesn't care, because if you are behind the ball, you can put the ball on the other side.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But how many coaches are working in footwork systematically?
Yeah.
How many coaches are working in day by day on the mental, emotional side?
Yeah.
How many? We say normally, even in TV commentators, they say tennis is a mental game, but they never expose or saying something about what happened, or let's do a drill. Even we are doing forehand to forehand, let's work under pressure. Let's watch the level of how you take decision, how you move on the forward, and you take the decision to cut the angle or to give more angle, how you move back to move forward. There are a lot of things to work.
Yeah.
That's something controversial. We say that tennis is a mental game, but we, like coaches, sometimes we're not working too much.
Yeah.
80%, Andrew, and everything that we are doing in the practice court should be, of course, this is a tennis player is a puzzle, You have different pieces. You can take the mental side, you can work on that and put it again. You can work on the emotional side and put it again. You can work on the physical side and put it again. The point is, any drill that you can do, you can choose which area you want to develop and then put it again, because that's why modern technique in terms of methodological concepts is integrated approach. It's not like in the past was, game style approach, which is more let people play, or close approach, which was more in the past. Okay, you have to combine open drills, closed drills, but integrating everything.
Yeah.
Integrating everything. When you watch the player, that's why the last book I wrote, the name is The Four Tennis. The tennis of the head, the tennis of the feet, the tennis of the body and the hand, and the tennis of the heart. How many times we are not asking the player for commitment? You are my player. Let's do an example. You're my player. You're going to do forehand to forehand. But my instruction for you, I want to say, Andrew, now I want commitment. I want put your heart. If you are tired, fight with your mind all the time to show me the tennis of your heart, which we admire about Djokovic or Nadal, because they are fighting against everything. You know why? Because the heart is this size.
Yeah.
And we are developing that? No, we are developing the hand. We are developing the technique, which is good in one tiny part.
Area.
In one area. But tennis of the heart is very important.
Yeah.
Because it's showing the passion, it's showing the commitment, showing your focus. Because you can have focus 5 minutes, but if you're gonna play a professional tournament, you need 3 hours. That's why consistency is very important.
Yeah.
That's why Federer, Rafa, Nadal, Serena, they were very good ones. Why? Because they were for many years in the same level, always high quality of be competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I say we have a lot to talk, not only the courses. Be certified is one step.
Yeah.
The key is be certified, receive the ATP degree. In this case, we invite everyone to Laguna Beach in May. We're going to have the certification course in Laguna Beach Academy in California. We're going to do the ATP certification. But more than that is how you keep evolving from there.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I feel like a lot of that top level stuff has been a secret. and that's what's really truly inspiring, and what your company and GPTCA is actually providing is bridging the gap from high level coaches kind of working more in detail on what they do to regular coaches just at home, just kind of going through the motions and kind of doing that. And maybe they want to get better, they want to do this, but the infrastructure and the information there has been lacking for a long time. So what you're doing and what you've created there is truly a blessing for the tennis community and coaches in general. And I think that stuff is just going to raise the level of tennis 100%. Got one last question for you. So, what are 3 books you would recommend a tennis coach to read? That your top 3 books that you would recommend a tennis coach to read to develop a better mindset for the game?
Well, there are a bunch of good ones, but probably talking about the old ones, I recommend that everyone can have in the library the Inner Game of Tennis, the Tim Goley. I think he wrote the book in 1974. Even today, it's a great book to have to understand the self-1, the self-2, how you have a voice, and how to avoid the self-1, which is the voice, which is the conscious mind, which is working all the time to stop you, how you're doing things. The Inner Game of Tennis, great book, at least to have in the library. The second great book, from my point of view, is How to Develop Mental Toughness, Dr. Jim Loehr. From my point of view, Dr. Jim Loehr is not the most important psychologist in the tennis history. It's also one who he did bring innovation in tennis, creating the rule of the 16 seconds, how you use 8 seconds going, to the backyard, leaving your mind and releasing of all the pressure if you make a mistake, and how you turn to the court, creating a positive language in your mind to be prepared for the next one, how you use that 60 seconds, and also the concept of the inner voice, how to use the inner voice, how the Dr. Jim Loehr, we must to give him huge respect, any coach in the world. And the third one, which is a new book coming, is the Emotional Coaching, wrote by Alberto Castellani. It's a new book, it's a new theory, how you work on the player emotions, on how the players and coaches should work in the day-by-day process to first recognize our emotions, to have awareness, and then from there to develop different techniques to manage that. Because, like I say before, we are human beings, human beings who are playing tennis, and we need to be aware about our own characteristic and our own personality, and for sure how you manage some situation is different how I'm gonna manage, because you have your own characteristic and then I am mine, and my character is no better or worse, it's different. And that's why sometimes coaches are repeating the same formula to anyone, which anyone or most of them are totally different. That's why we need to learn how to recognize emotions, how to professional and with different techniques manage emotions, and to have better performance.
Yeah.
If you see what happened, which is very important in professional tennis, even in junior tennis, is emotional stability for the player, but also for the coach. Sometimes you can watch coaches, oh, come on, okay.
That's for sure.
Or sometimes small kids under 10, under 12, you can see national, regional tournaments, the coach making signal. It's like it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about them.
Yeah.
And that's why coaches who are really experienced coaches and coaches who are with emotional stability, they can transfer confidence, improve the self-esteem of the players because they are competing.
Yeah.
No, you are competing. I think these 3 books, It's a must-have book.
Must-haves.
There are a lot of course, I can recommend my books, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I'm sure.
My point is there are very important books, and there are a lot. You know, 2 weeks ago I was in Big Braden's place. I was there in in Costa Rica, in California, learning about biomechanics. I was a young guy of 21 years. I was back 2 weeks ago. Some courts now are pickable courts, and some of the others. We need to show respect to Big Braden. Big Braden was a true innovator for our sport, and was a legend, you know. And,
sure.
and the book, so the book he did for the brain is very good too.
Yeah.
You know, the old book about biomechanics, another very good one. Another good book, if you allow me to have a fourth one,
Yeah.
is about high performance tennis from Jack Grobel, which is explaining more about biomechanics, physiology, nutrition, how you work the different axes of the body, movement. In the book you have a lot. Of course, it's a book of around the 80s or the 90s, but it's a must-to-have book.
A must. Cool. Super cool. And I'm sorry, but I gotta ask just one more thing for you. You know, this is your 5th year at the World Tennis Conference, and it's a world-renowned online conference all over the world. You know, you're bringing the top tier coaches. How did that inspiration start for you, and where do you see that evolving for yourself, and in terms of, you know, how you're educating the coaches and the value that you're bringing to the tennis community there?
Thank you, Andrew. Very good question. The most important thing to say about World Tennis Conference in our 5th anniversary is an event who is creating inspiration. You know, what we want is to say to everyone, wake up. There is a world of knowledge that we can share with you, and also you have to keep learning and keep developing yourself. Now you have the possibility to watch the best coaches in the world, the top scientists, the top leaders, talking about the future of the game, how to be a better coach, how to develop in different areas. By the way, you will be there too. We have 72 main speakers and 18 panel speakers. We have 90 main speakers talking in the conference in different areas, which is very important. For us, the evolution is to keep bringing more information to everyone. That's why it's online, because it's impossible to have the best coaches all together for 4 days, you know. And this is, for me, the most important thing is to cover all over the world. Why? Because talent is everywhere.
Yep.
That's the main concept that we want. And we need to help coaches to understand, look, we have 72 main presentations. If any coach in the world is able to learn only 1% of each presentation, we're going to have 72% of change in your program.
That's true.
That's why I say World Tennis Conference is of course, is an education event, but more is an inspirational event.
Yeah.
Because we are looking for the aha moment. You are watching your presentation and one guy say, anyway, Korea, Turkey, Australia, Argentina, Brazil, and I say, oh, I got it. Sometimes it's an insight, a concept, an idea, a drill, you know, and the guy say, I got it. And that moment is reproduced by 71 more presentations. We did it.
It's amazing. Cool. Fernando, well, thank you for your time. I'll let you get going.
Congratulations for your
Thank
project.
you.
Congratulations on what you are doing for our sport.
Thank you, Will.
And keep pushing forward.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm super excited to be involved with what you're doing and changing the world of tennis. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Let's work all together.
Yep.